What if, right now, in this tiny corner of space, the universe is whispering its final, fragile thought through us? Pause for a moment and let that question sink in, not just into your mind, but into your chest, into your breathing. Imagine that everything, the galaxies swirling like cosmic storms, the stars igniting and fading like distant campfires, the dust and gas that will one day give birth to worlds, has been leading up to this one fleeting moment, this singular breath of intelligence that we call ourselves. Imagine that you, listening here in the dark, are part of the last time the cosmos will ever be able to reflect on itself. It is an unsettling thought. It bends the mind back on itself. Because if it is true, then humanity is not simply another species on another planet. We are the last witness, the final dream, the ultimate question mark drawn in stardust. Picture this. You are standing barefoot at the edge of an endless, silent ocean at night. The sky above you is cloudless, and the stars are scattered like ice across black glass. The water before you stretches on forever, smooth as ink, reflecting the dim light. There are no boats, no voices, no distant fires glowing on any faraway shore. There is only the faint rhythm of waves lapping against your feet and the sound of your own breathing. That is humanity's position in the cosmos. We are the lonely figure at the shore, staring out across a sea of stars, straining for any sign of another voice. And so far, all we have heard is silence. We often imagine that the universe should be filled with life. It is, after all, so unimaginably vast. Billions of galaxies, each holding billions of stars, each with planets orbiting in great silent spirals. Surely, somewhere out there, the chemistry of life should have sparked again and again, igniting new minds, new cultures, new ways of thinking. And yet here we stand, with our radio telescopes pressed against the sky, listening for whispers that never come. This question is not simply about aliens or little green figures in silver ships. It cuts deeper, into the very fabric of existence. The question is whether intelligence itself, awareness, self-reflection, the ability to wonder, is perhaps a singular accident, a candle that flickers only once in the entire history of time. And if that is true, then we are not just alone. We are the end of the story. The final chapter, the last fragile paragraph written in the long book of the universe. The thought is strange because it shifts our perspective in ways both terrifying and humbling. On one hand, it means that all the other civilizations we dream of meeting may never have existed at all. No alien philosophers gazing at their moons. No distant poets writing about the light of unfamiliar suns. No vast networks of civilizations trading ideas across galaxies. None of it. If we are the last, then such things were only ever dreamed of by us. On the other hand, if we are the final thought of the cosmos, then our existence carries a weight beyond measure. Every song we write, every question we ask, every story we tell is not just a human act. It is the universe speaking, one last time. Through us, stardust has found a voice. Take a moment to think about this. A universe 13 billion years old has unfolded through fire and collapse, through stars being born and dying, through planets forming, oceans churning, cells dividing, and evolution clawing its way toward awareness. And now here we are, conscious, fragile, aware of our own mortality, aware of the sky above us, and perhaps there will never be another. The very idea sends a ripple of unease down the spine. Because if we are indeed the last, then intelligence is not a recurring theme, not a song played again and again across galaxies. It is instead a single fragile note, held briefly in the air, echoing once, then fading forever. And when it fades, the silence will be total. The stars will continue to burn, the galaxies will continue to drift apart, but there will be no one left to notice, no one left to wonder. This is more than science fiction, more than a thought experiment whispered in late-night conversations. It is a challenge to how we see ourselves. It forces us to ask, what does it mean to be human, if being human is the final time the universe will ever think, ever reflect, ever question its own existence? There is awe in that idea, but also a kind of fragile sorrow, because we are used to thinking of ourselves as small, insignificant, lost in the immensity of space. But what if the opposite is true? What if we are unimaginably rare, unimaginably precious, precisely because we may be the last intelligence to ever exist? Imagine a library filled with countless books, and yet when you begin to read them, you find that all the pages are blank, except for one. And in that single book, one sentence has been written. That sentence is us, humanity, our brief existence, our thoughts, our questions. The library is vast, but the words are few, and when the book closes, there may never be another. That is the doorway into this question. It is the haunting possibility that when we stare into the sky and wonder whether anyone else is out there, we are not just asking about the present. We are asking about the entire sweep of time, past and future. Did intelligence happen before us? Will it happen again after us? Or are we it, the final voice in an otherwise silent play? But before we decide whether we are truly alone in eternity, before we weigh the unbearable weight of being the last, we must return to a much older, much simpler puzzle. A puzzle that has echoed in science for decades. If life is common and intelligence is not impossible, then why, in all this vastness, have we not yet found anyone else? Why haven't we heard even a whisper in the dark? Step outside on a clear night and look up. The sky is heavy with light, stars scattered like grains of luminous sand thrown across an infinite black sea. Some of those stars are young, only just beginning their long burn, while others are ancient, fading, pulsing, sending out their final light before vanishing forever. Together they form a tapestry so vast that the human mind cannot truly contain it. Each point of light could be home to planets. And on those planets, perhaps oceans. And on those oceans, perhaps life. The night sky is not empty. It is ablaze with potential. And yet, when we press our ears to the heavens, what we hear is silence. For decades, astronomers have aimed their instruments at the cosmos, sweeping the skies with enormous radio dishes, searching for signals that should, by all accounts, be there. We imagine alien civilizations sending greetings, warnings, or perhaps even the simple static of their technologies bleeding across the void. But the static never comes. The microphones of our telescopes only hiss with the lonely whisper of the universe itself. This paradox has a name. It is known as the Fermi paradox, born from a simple but devastatingly profound question asked by physicist Enrico Fermi in 1950. Where is everybody? He posed the question while eating lunch with colleagues. A casual inquiry dropped into conversation, yet it cut to the heart of one of the deepest mysteries of existence. If the universe is so old, so vast, and so richly populated with stars and planets, then intelligent life should not only exist, but should be abundant. Civilizations should have risen, expanded, and filled the galaxy long before humans ever evolved. But when we look, we see nothing. When we listen, we hear nothing. Consider the numbers. The Milky Way alone contains around 400 billion stars. Many of them are orbited by planets, some of which rest in the gentle zone where liquid water might exist. Given enough time, life should have emerged on many of them. And yet, despite these vast odds, we see no signs of life beyond Earth. No great networks of interstellar travelers. No colossal structures harnessing the light of stars. No detectable radio chatter humming through space. This silence grows more unsettling the more one thinks about it. Because if intelligent life is even moderately common, the galaxy should have been transformed by it long ago. Civilizations could, in theory, spread from star to star in just a few million years, which is a blink of an eye in cosmic terms. And yet, despite billions of years having passed, the galaxy remains pristine, unmarked by any visible hand of intelligence. It is as though we are standing in the middle of a vast forest that should be teeming with birds and animals, yet the branches are still, the air is empty, and not a single creature stirs. So what does the silence mean? One possibility is that life itself is extraordinarily rare. Perhaps the conditions that gave rise to Earth and to humanity are almost impossibly specific. A series of delicate accidents stacked one upon the other produced us, and nowhere else has the same chain of fortune ever occurred. In that case, the silence is not strange at all. It is simply the natural outcome of our uniqueness. But another possibility is darker. Perhaps life is not so rare, but intelligence is fragile. Civilizations may rise, but they do not endure. They may discover fire, tools, language, and cities, but somewhere along the way, they collapse. War, ecological collapse, runaway technology, or cosmic disasters may erase them before they can reach out to others. If this is true, then the silence we hear is not the silence of absence, but the silence of endings. A hush that falls after too many voices have burned out. And perhaps there is yet another possibility, stranger still. Perhaps the silence is not absence, nor collapse, but choice. Perhaps civilizations exist, but they do not wish to speak. They may hide, fearing predators in the dark. They may withdraw, uninterested in contact. Or they may communicate in ways we cannot yet recognize, messages written in the language of particles, gravity, or dimensions we do not understand. To us, it would sound like silence, but perhaps to a more advanced ear, the universe is humming with conversation. Each of these possibilities bends the mind in unsettling directions. If we are rare, then we are unimaginably precious. If civilizations collapse, then our own survival may already be hanging by a thread. And if the silence is the result of choice, then it raises an even more haunting question. What or who are they hiding from? The silence does not give us answers. It only gives us a canvas on which to project our fears and our hopes. It leaves us staring into the void, wondering whether we are alone, whether we are doomed, or whether we are simply too small to hear the true music of the cosmos. Take a moment to breathe with that thought. Imagine sitting in a quiet room, waiting for someone to speak, and hours pass, and then days, and still nothing. The quiet grows heavier. That is where humanity sits now, with its radio telescopes pressed against the sky, waiting for a voice that may never come. This is why the Great Silence is not merely a scientific puzzle, but a philosophical wound. It makes us question our assumptions about life, progress, and meaning. It makes us doubt whether the universe is as full as we once hoped. And it places before us a terrifying possibility, that intelligence, like a fragile flame, may not be meant to endure. If civilizations should be everywhere, and yet they are not, then perhaps the danger is not far away, not lurking in the stars. Perhaps the danger is closer. Perhaps it is written into the very fabric of intelligence itself, a shadow that follows every species that learns to think too deeply, invent too quickly, or grow too powerful for its own survival. The silence may not be an accident. It may be an omen. And if that is true, then the real question is not whether someone else is out there, but whether we can escape the same fate that has silenced them all. Imagine a colossal sieve stretched across the fabric of the universe, its mesh fine and unyielding. Every form of life that has ever sparked, every flicker of biology that has risen from the chaos of chemistry must attempt to pass through. The sieve does not care about beauty or potential. It does not favor wisdom, nor cruelty, nor innocence. It simply tests. Most never pass. A few slip through, and an almost unimaginable fraction make it all the way to the other side. This is the image at the heart of one of the most haunting ideas in modern thought, the Great Filter. It is not a creature or a conspiracy, not an enemy with a face, but a possibility. It is the suspicion that somewhere in the long road from dead rock to thinking mind, there is a barrier that almost nothing can cross. The Great Filter theory asks a simple but devastating question. If life and intelligence should be common, then why does the universe look so empty? Why do our instruments find no signals, no signs, no evidence of cosmic neighbors? Perhaps it is because life, at some point, almost always fails. Think about the journey from dust to mind. At the very beginning, you need chemistry to give birth to biology. Molecules must learn how to copy themselves. The oceans must bubble with the first fragile cells. Most planets never make it even this far. Conditions are wrong, climates too unstable, or the chemistry simply refuses to arrange itself in such a delicate balance. But let us imagine that life does emerge. Then it must evolve into complexity. It must form multicellular organisms, animals with senses, creatures able to manipulate their world. This too may be exceedingly rare. Billions of years may pass with nothing but simple microbes clinging to survival, never finding a way to combine into something larger, never inventing nervous systems, never growing eyes or wings or fins. And then, even if creatures do rise, the road narrows again. For a species must not only live but learn. It must develop intelligence, memory, language, tools. Most animals on Earth did not. Dinosaurs ruled for hundreds of millions of years with strength and size, but without the need for complex thought. Intelligence, despite its power, is not the inevitable outcome of evolution. It is one of the least traveled paths. Finally, if intelligence does emerge, there is the final test: survival beyond invention. For when a species learns to harness fire, electricity, nuclear energy, and perhaps artificial intelligence, it also holds in its hands the means of its own destruction. Civilizations might collapse under the weight of their weapons, their greed, or their exhaustion of the planet that sustains them. They might burn brightly, only to extinguish themselves before their light spreads to the stars. These stages, these narrowing gates, form the imagined bars of the Great Filter, and somewhere among them, most civilizations fall. That is why, perhaps, we see only silence, because the majority never make it far enough to be seen. The terrifying part of the theory lies not just in its description, but in its uncertainty. Where is the Great Filter? Is it behind us, or is it still ahead? If the filter lies behind us, then humanity is a miracle beyond comprehension. We have already passed the near-impossible tests. We survived the leap from molecules to cells, from cells to multicellular creatures, from instinct to intelligence. Against unthinkable odds, we crossed through gates that kept almost all others out. If this is true, then the reason the universe looks empty is because we are the only ones who ever made it this far. We are, perhaps, alone, but we are also the ultimate survivors. That thought is both comforting and isolating. But if the filter lies ahead of us, then the silence takes on a darker meaning. It becomes a warning. Perhaps the reason we see no civilizations among the stars is because they all reach a certain point of development, a point much like ours, and then vanish. They build their cities, they dream of travel, they lift their eyes toward the heavens, and then something stops them. War, collapse, exhaustion, machines that turn against them, or even cosmic events beyond their control. If this is true, then our intelligence is short-lived, and we too may soon join the silence. The idea carries an almost unbearable weight because it forces us to look at our own species differently. Every invention, every discovery, every new technology could be either a step forward or the moment we stumble into the filter. We cannot know which. Take a moment to feel that unease. Imagine walking across a bridge that disappears into the fog. You cannot see where it leads or whether it ends at all. Beneath you is a void. Every step might bring you closer to the far shore, or it might carry you to the edge where the bridge collapses. The Great Filter is that uncertainty written across the stars. It changes how we view our survival. If the filter is ahead, then our future is not guaranteed. Intelligence may not be the solution to survival, but the trap that leads to extinction. And in that case, the silence of the universe is not an accident, but a tomb. And yet, there is something almost sacred in the possibility that the filter is behind us. If that is true, then we are a singular miracle in all of time and space. A flame that burned against unthinkable odds, surviving trials that extinguished countless others. The loneliness of being the only intelligence is painful, but it also means that we are rare beyond measure, that we are the only ones who can carry the torch forward. The Great Filter forces us to wrestle with paradox. If we are alone, we are special. If we are not alone, we are probably doomed. There is no comforting middle ground. The silence, the emptiness of the cosmos, leaves us suspended between two truths, each as heavy as the other. And perhaps the most haunting possibility of all is that the filter is not a sudden catastrophe, not an explosion or a collapse, but something slower and more subtle. A long erosion, a creeping decay written into the very fabric of civilization, or even the universe itself. Species may rise and flourish, not with fire and destruction, but with a slow dwindling, a gradual fading, until all that remains is silence. And if that is the case, then the silence we hear now is not a scream or a crash, but the whisper of countless civilizations slowly falling asleep, never to wake again. Which leads us into the next question. If the filter is not a single catastrophe, but a gradual decay, then what force could be so patient, so universal, that it claims all intelligence in the end? Close your eyes for a moment and picture the night sky as you know it now. A dome of scattered fireflies, the Milky Way stretched like a river of light, stars burning with ancient persistence. It feels eternal, as though the stars have always been there, as though they will always be there. Yet the truth is more fragile, more fleeting. The stars are dying, the galaxies are drifting apart, and slowly, silently, the night sky is losing its light. Cosmology tells us that the universe is not static, it is expanding. Since the first moment of the Big Bang, space itself has been stretching, carrying galaxies along like leaves upon a swelling tide. At first, this was a gentle drift, but in the past few billion years, something strange has happened. The expansion has accelerated, driven by a mysterious force we call dark energy, though we do not truly understand what it is. This acceleration means that galaxies are not just moving apart, but moving apart faster and faster, so that eventually their light will no longer reach us at all. Imagine sitting on a shore, watching boats sail away toward the horizon. At first, you can still see their lanterns glowing in the dark, still hear faint echoes of their songs. But as time passes, the lanterns shrink to pinpricks, the songs fade, and eventually the boats disappear entirely, swallowed by distance. This is what is happening on the cosmic scale. The further galaxies are from us, the faster they are sailing away, until their light can no longer cross the expanding space between us. The consequence is staggering. In the far future, our night sky will no longer be filled with countless galaxies. Instead, only the Milky Way and a few neighboring galaxies that have merged with it will remain. All else will vanish from view, erased by expansion. To any future observer, the universe will look small and empty, as though it contained only a single island of stars floating in endless darkness. The true vastness of the cosmos, the billions of galaxies we see today, will be hidden forever. And this is only the beginning. Over trillions of years, the stars themselves will burn out. The brilliant blue giants will be gone first, exhausting their fuel in violent bursts. Then the yellow stars like our sun will fade, leaving behind white embers that cool and dim with time. Even the small red dwarfs, which burn their fuel so slowly they can outlive entire galaxies, will eventually wink out. The night sky will grow darker and darker, until only the faint glow of dying stars remains, scattered like ashes in an infinite void. What will the universe be then? A place of cold, of silence, of shadows. A universe without starlight, without warmth, without the energy to sustain life as we know it. If intelligence depends on energy, on the radiance of stars, then its possibility is slowly being erased. Time itself is draining the conditions necessary for thought. This realization changes how we view our own existence. We live now in what might be called the golden afternoon of the cosmos. The stars still burn brightly, galaxies are still visible to us, and planets like Earth still orbit within life-sustaining warmth. The universe is still young enough, still generous enough, to allow us to exist and to wonder. But this is temporary. We are alive during a brief window in cosmic history, a window that will close. The chance for civilizations to arise is shrinking with each passing eon. Take a moment to sit with that, to realize that our very ability to look into the night sky, to see the light of galaxies billions of years away, is a gift bound to time. Future intelligences, if they arise at all, may never know this wonder. To them, the universe will appear small, static, lifeless. They will have no way of knowing what was lost, no way of knowing that once the heavens blazed with uncountable fires. There is a quiet sorrow in this knowledge. It means that even if intelligence is not rare, even if life finds a way again and again, the universe itself may eventually shut the door. Civilizations may bloom like flowers in spring, but time is winter, and winter will come. The silence we hear today may not only be the silence of absence, but the silence of time's slow erasure. And yet, within this sorrow is also a strange beauty. Because if we are alive during the golden afternoon, then we are alive at a time when the universe is at its most radiant. We can see more of it, know more of it, marvel at more of it than any beings who may live in the deep future. We are witnesses to its brightest age. Perhaps that makes our role all the more precious. To see, to record, to remember. But the thought lingers, soft and unsettling. If intelligence requires starlight, then its existence is temporary, no matter how resilient it may be. Time is not on our side. The universe does not wait for us. The stars are burning even as you listen to these words, even as you breathe, even as you close your eyes at night. And so the image returns of a flame, flickering against the dark. Our intelligence, our consciousness, is a fragile flame. The universe itself is the wind. And though the flame burns brightly now, there is no guarantee it will last. Perhaps it never could. This leads us into the next question, deeper and more personal. If even in this golden age intelligence is a precarious flame, then how did it ever emerge at all? What are the chances that chaos, accident, and stardust would assemble into self-awareness? How improbable, how miraculous is the lottery of life? What are the chances that chemistry, chaos, and stardust could assemble into something that can ask questions, dream, and imagine itself? What are the chances that, in the middle of an endless ocean of matter and energy, a single pocket of atoms could gather into a mind that wonders about its own origin? The odds are so staggering, so delicate, that sometimes it feels less like an inevitability and more like a lottery. A lottery in which nearly every ticket is blank, and yet, against reason, one was drawn. And that ticket is us. When we look back at the story of Earth, we realize just how many coincidences had to fall into place for intelligence to arise. It was not one miracle, but many. A chain of improbable events, each resting upon the last, each one necessary for the next. Our planet had to form at just the right distance from the sun, not so close that oceans boiled away, not so far that water froze forever into ice. Its orbit had to remain stable across billions of years, not pulled apart by wandering giants or nudged into extremes. A protective magnetic field had to shield it from the sun's storms, and a thin but persistent atmosphere had to hold the heat of day and the cool of night in delicate balance. Then there was the moon. Our unusually large companion steadied Earth's tilt, preventing wild swings of climate that could have torn apart fragile ecosystems. The tides it stirred may even have been essential in shaping the earliest stages of life, creating shallow pools where chemistry could dance its first steps toward biology. Without the moon, perhaps no ocean creatures would ever have crawled onto land. Without the moon, perhaps there would never have been us. But stability alone is not enough. Life's story also needed disruption. Extinction events, catastrophes that wiped the slate clean, were equally important. The asteroid that ended the reign of the dinosaurs, for example, cleared space for small mammals to thrive, mammals that would eventually evolve into us. Without that rock falling from the sky at precisely the right moment, the world might still belong to reptiles, majestic and powerful, but not building radios or writing poetry. And then there was the DNA lottery itself. Random mutations and unlikely leaps that carried life from simple cells to complex organisms, from fins to legs, from instinct to imagination. Most mutations led nowhere, but some changed everything. Each was a roll of cosmic dice, and over time, the dice landed in ways that shaped eyes to see, hands to grasp, and brains to wonder. Step back for a moment and consider how fragile that chain was. If even one link had broken, if even one chance event had gone differently, intelligence might never have appeared here at all. Earth might still be filled with lush forests, teeming seas, and endless swarms of creatures, yet none of them would look up at the stars and ask the question, why? This suggests that intelligence may not be the rule of life, but its rarest exception. Life itself may be common in the universe. Simple cells, bacteria, perhaps even plants and animals of extraordinary variety. But intelligence, the kind that builds civilizations and wonders about its place in the cosmos, may be vanishingly rare. If so, then perhaps we are not just latecomers to the story of existence. Perhaps we are the only ones who ever reached this point. The solitary winners of a lottery so improbable that its odds make no sense to us at all. Pause and let that thought settle. We are used to thinking of ourselves as ordinary, one species among many, on one planet among billions. But if intelligence is truly that rare, then we are anything but ordinary. We are the universe's rarest jewel, a singular expression of thought in a cosmos otherwise content with silence. There is something both humbling and terrifying in that idea. Because winning the lottery does not mean security. It does not mean permanence. It only means that, against reason, we happen to draw the lucky number. But lucky numbers do not last forever. The same forces that gave rise to us could just as easily erase us. The more we think about it, the more intelligence seems not only improbable, but precarious. It took billions of years for us to appear, yet it might take only a few centuries or even a few decades for us to disappear. Evolution built us slowly, but destruction could be swift. A war, a warming climate, a careless invention, each could be enough to unravel the delicate fabric that holds us together. And so the question lingers. If we are the winners of the greatest lottery the universe has ever played, then why does intelligence feel so fragile? Why does it seem that once the flame is lit, it trembles in every gust of wind, always threatening to go out? Perhaps rarity explains why we are alone, but it does not explain why intelligence seems so difficult to keep alive. And that is the next step in our journey. For if life is improbable, then intelligence is rarer still. But if intelligence is so rare, why does it seem so easy to destroy? Picture a tightrope stretched across a vast abyss. On one side lies survival, on the other lies collapse, and humanity, like every civilization before us, walks that rope with trembling steps. The higher we climb, the more dangerous the fall. The very tools that help us balance are the same ones that could tip us into the void. Every society that reaches a certain level of advancement discovers this paradox. Progress is never only a gift. It is a double-edged blade, bright with promise and dark with danger. The moment a species learns how to change its world is also the moment it learns how to destroy it. Think of fire. For our distant ancestors, it was salvation. Fire kept away predators, warmed the night, and cooked food that would have been inedible otherwise. But fire could also burn a forest, wipe out a village, or consume everything they had built. With every tool came risk. With every discovery, a new shadow followed close behind. Now think of us. The shadows we have conjured are far larger, far darker. Nuclear weapons, capable of ending entire nations in an instant, hang in silos like silent thunder. Climate change, born from our hunger for energy, shifts the balance of air and ocean, threatening the very ecosystems that sustain us. Artificial intelligence, a child of our brilliance, grows quickly, and though it may become our greatest ally, it could also slip from our control. Even medicine, that most human of triumphs, carries its own dangers. For the power to alter genes and extend life may also be the power to unmake ourselves. It is not difficult to imagine that other civilizations, if they ever existed, walk the same rope. Some may have invented tools beyond their wisdom, weapons beyond their restraint. Perhaps their skies once lit with brilliance, with towers and machines that stretched toward the stars. But if they tipped too far, if war or hunger or carelessness undid them, the rope snapped and they fell. Their cities crumbled, their voices went silent. Their planets returned to stillness, their oceans to quiet waves, their skies to mute constellations. If this is true, then the silence we hear when we listen to the cosmos may not be silence at all. It may be a graveyard, a vast, invisible cemetery of civilizations that once burned bright, only to vanish before their light reached another world. The universe may be filled with ghosts, not of bodies, but of possibilities, cultures and languages and songs that never survived long enough to be shared. There is a certain chill in imagining that. The stars above us, shining so calmly, may conceal endless tragedies. Civilizations that reached for the stars but never arrived, undone by their own inventions, their own brilliance turned against them. The graveyard theory whispers that intelligence is not only rare, but cursed, that it contains within itself the seeds of its own undoing. Take a moment and breathe with that thought. Intelligence is not only a triumph of evolution, but a dangerous gift. The same mind that can heal is also the mind that can harm. The same tool that can create is also the tool that can destroy. And the more powerful the tool, the sharper that paradox becomes. Perhaps this is why we see nothing in the sky but silence. Not because civilizations never existed, but because they never lasted. Each one walked the rope. Each one reached a moment of crisis. Some leaned toward survival, but most tipped too far. Intelligence bloomed like a rare flower, then withered in its own shadow. And here we are, walking the same rope. Our weapons are still armed. Our climate still shifts. Our technologies still evolve faster than our wisdom. We too balance on the edge of the abyss. The difference is that we can see it. We can name it. We can tell ourselves stories about civilizations that fell. We can imagine their silence as a warning to our own future. This raises a deeper question. If collapse is the rule, then survival may require something more than intelligence. Something rarer still. Perhaps wisdom. Perhaps restraint. Perhaps the ability to see beyond one's own lifetime, to imagine futures not yet born, and to protect them. Survival may not be about brilliance at all, but about humility, about patience, about kindness. Think of a match. Struck too quickly, it burns bright and hot, but it consumes itself in seconds. Nurtured carefully, Shielded from the wind, it can ignite a fire that warms and lasts. Civilizations, too, may burn out like matches or endure like hearths. And the difference may not be their intelligence, but their discipline, their ability to survive their own flame. And so the silence of the stars may not be a mystery at all. It may be a mirror, a reflection of what happens when brilliance outpaces wisdom, when invention outruns care. If so, then the universe is not empty. It is full of echoes, full of endings. And we are one more civilization walking the same rope, carrying the same fragile flame. But if survival requires more than intelligence, then what is that missing element? What is that rare ingredient that allows a species not only to rise, but to endure? That is the question waiting for us beyond the graveyard. What if the universe does not want intelligence to last? What if thought itself is an accident, a strange, temporary detour in the long story of life, destined to vanish as suddenly as it appeared? When we look at the living world, intelligence seems far from inevitable. Most life thrives without it. For billions of years, Earth was ruled by single-celled organisms, tiny engines of survival that knew nothing, desired nothing, yet persisted with astonishing tenacity. Even now, microbes fill every corner of the planet, from deep ocean vents to frozen mountain peaks, outnumbering us in ways the mind can barely comprehend. They have no language, no culture, no dreams, yet they endure, perhaps more securely than we ever will. The truth is that intelligence comes at a price. Our brains, miraculous as they are also voracious. They consume a vast share of the body's energy, more than any other organ. To sustain a mind capable of reflection, of memory, of imagination, requires immense resources. Evolution did not design brains for beauty or philosophy. It shaped them only so long as they improved survival, and even then, it gave us no guarantees. This is why intelligence may be less a destiny and more an accident. It is not the crown of evolution, but one of its experiments, balanced precariously against costs and risks. Evolution does not favor wisdom, it favors what works. And in most cases, what works is simplicity. The shark, older than trees, still hunts in the seas with a brain far smaller than ours, yet it has survived far longer. The beetle, unremarkable and unthinking, thrives in forms more numerous than all mammals combined. Compared to them, we are fragile newcomers, propped up by a mind that demands constant feeding, constant care. Think of a spark in a storm. Brief, dazzling, but gone almost as soon as it appears. That may be what intelligence truly is, a rare flash of brilliance in a universe that does not need it. The cosmos is not designed to nurture thought. It is designed to follow its own rules, rules that care nothing for wonder or meaning. If we are here, it is not because the universe wanted it. It is because chance allowed it for a while. And this raises a haunting possibility. Perhaps we are not the beginning of something greater. Perhaps we are the end. The final flicker of self-awareness before the storm closes in again, before silence returns. The lottery of life produced us, but lotteries do not repeat their numbers often. We may be the last intelligence the universe will ever see. Pause and let that sink in. We live in an age where we assume that progress is natural, that intelligence is meant to spread, that our path is upward and outward toward the stars. But what if that is only a story we tell ourselves? What if progress is not destiny, but illusion? If we look at the deep history of life, the pattern is not progress, but persistence. Life adapts, changes, survives. Intelligence does not guarantee any of these. Even now, one can imagine a future where our brilliance undoes us, where our flame gutters out, leaving Earth once more to the microbes, the insects, the creatures that ask nothing and endure everything. If that happens, life will go on, but thought will not. The planet will be green again, oceans will glitter again, forests will whisper again, but no voice will rise to wonder at the stars. There is something tragic in this idea, but also something strangely serene. Intelligence is not the universe's purpose, it is simply one of its experiments. If we are the last, then we are both a miracle and a farewell. A final verse in the Song of Thought, sung once, then allowed to fade. And yet, if this is true, it changes the meaning of our existence. Because if intelligence is not destiny, then its very fragility makes it sacred. It means that every thought, every story, every question is infinitely precious because it may never come again. When you look at a painting, when you hear a piece of music, when you read a poem, you are witnessing something the universe almost never makes. You are witnessing its rarest spark. This realization can feel heavy, like a weight pressing down upon the heart, but it also points to responsibility. If intelligence is fragile, then it is also ours to protect. If we are the last, then we are the keepers of something irreplaceable. The flame is in our hands. And so the question lingers. If we are the universe's final thought, what does that mean for us? What responsibility rests upon our shoulders? How should we live, knowing that our existence may be not only rare, but unrepeatable? If we are the universe's final dream, then everything depends on us. This thought drifts through the mind like a whisper at the edge of sleep, fragile but inescapable. It is both humbling and terrifying. Because if no other intelligence is left to rise, then we are not simply one story among many. We may be the closing chapter of the only story the cosmos will ever tell about itself. We are the only known species that can reflect on existence itself. The only beings who can look at the night sky and see not just light, but time. The only creatures who can hold in their minds the idea of billions of galaxies, of eternity, of nothingness. No dolphin or raven, as clever as they are, writes equations about the curvature of space-time. No whale, singing across the oceans, ponders the death of stars. No ant or oak tree or mushroom network wonders about infinity. It is us, and perhaps only us. The strange accident of stardust arranging itself into a brain that can ask, why? This makes every act of human culture more than personal. A song is no longer just a song, but perhaps the last melody the universe will ever hear. A story is not just a story, but perhaps the final attempt to weave meaning out of chaos. A scientific discovery is not just a step forward for us, but potentially the last step anyone will ever take in uncovering the mysteries of reality. Take a moment and think about that. Imagine a library at the end of time, shelves stacked with every book, every piece of music, every sketch and formula and whispered word ever made by human hands. If no one comes after us, then that library is the universe's only collection of meaning. After us, silence. This gives weight to everything we do. Suddenly, choices matter not only for ourselves, not only for our children, but for the cosmos itself. If intelligence is truly that rare, then every mistake, every cruelty, every waste is not just a private wound. It is the universe wounding itself, erasing its own reflection. And every kindness, every act of creation, every spark of beauty is not just a fleeting gesture. It is the cosmos honoring itself, remembering itself, celebrating itself. Perhaps this is the strange burden of being the last intelligence. To know that what we do carries infinite weight because there may be no one else to carry it forward. We are the stewards of thought, of wonder, of awareness, the guardians of the only mirror the universe has ever held up to itself. And yet this responsibility is not only heavy, it is also luminous, because it means that we, fragile as we are, hold the power to fill the silence with meaning, to paint color into the void, to make the darkness sing. There is a beauty in this, a sense that our fleeting existence, though small in scale, is vast in significance. When we love, when we create, when we understand, we are not just surviving, we are shaping the last whispers of reality. Perhaps that is why humans have always told stories about gods, about destiny, about purpose. Deep down, we feel the weight of being alone in the silence. We sense that meaning is ours to make, because no one else will. Still, this thought can feel unbearable at times. If we are truly the last, the responsibility is overwhelming. How can one fragile species carry the weight of an entire cosmos? We are divided, flawed, often careless. We war with each other. We poison the very world that sustains us. We chase illusions of power. How can we be trusted to hold the final flame of intelligence without letting it flicker out? And yet, perhaps responsibility has always felt this way. Perhaps it has always been daunting to carry the knowledge that our actions ripple beyond us. Parents feel it when they hold a child. Leaders feel it when they guide nations. Artists feel it when they send their work into the world. We are accustomed to carrying more than just ourselves. Now, the cosmos may simply be reminding us that the stakes are higher than we imagined. The philosopher might say that meaning is not given to us, it is made by us. And if that is true, then cosmic responsibility is less about survival and more about creation, less about fear of extinction and more about the courage to sing while we are here. Even if the universe does not last, even if intelligence is brief, the fact that it happened at all, The fact that we are here now is enough to make it sacred. Still, survival matters. For every day we continue, the universe continues to know itself. For every year we endure, another chapter of its story is written. If we are the final dream, then prolonging that dream is both our duty and our gift. But survival is not enough. A dream must also be shared. Meaning is not only about living, it is about connecting. And connection requires others. Why do we look up at the night sky? Why do our eyes linger on the stars when they are so far away, so unreachable, so silent? The answer is not only curiosity. It is not only the search for knowledge. Beneath the science, beneath the wonder, lies something simpler and far more intimate. We gaze at the stars for comfort. For as long as humans have walked beneath the heavens, we have asked if someone is out there. Around ancient fires, people told stories of gods who lived among the stars, watching, guiding, sometimes punishing. Later, we imagined angels, messengers of light who could cross the gulf between heaven and earth. In more recent centuries, we dreamed of visitors from distant worlds, aliens traveling through space in silver ships carrying wisdom or danger. Each story is different, yet each is born from the same root, the longing not to be alone. This longing is not an accident, it is woven into us. Humans are creatures of connection. We are born helpless, unable to survive without care, and even as adults, we thrive only in communities, tribes, nations. Loneliness feels like hunger or thirst because for our ancestors, isolation meant death. To be alone was to be vulnerable. To be connected was to endure. So it is no surprise that when we extend our gaze to the universe, we carry the same desire. We long for neighbors in the stars, companions in the darkness. We hope that somewhere, someone is watching the same sky, feeling the same longing, waiting for us as we wait for them. The search for extraterrestrial life may be framed in terms of radio signals and telescopes, but in truth, it is an act of yearning. Science is the method. Comfort is the goal. And yet, so far, there is only silence. No signals, no visitors, no reply to our whispered questions. Every time a telescope scans the heavens, every time a detector listens for a message, it returns to us empty-handed. The silence deepens, and with it, our loneliness. What does it mean if there are no others? If the night sky is not only silent, but truly empty of companions? It would mean that our loneliness is not just personal, not just cultural, but cosmic. It would mean that the universe itself is solitary, and that we are its only chance at company. That thought is heavy, like an ocean pressing on the chest. To be alone in a room is one thing. To be alone on a planet, another. But to be alone in the cosmos, alone in all of existence, changes the very shape of what it means to be human. Our stories of gods and angels and aliens, then, are not just imagination. They are survival. They are the mind's way of soothing itself, of giving itself company when the silence grows too large. Yet there is another way to see it. Perhaps this longing itself is the sign of our unique role. No other creature on Earth feels this hunger. Wolves howl, whales sing, birds call to each other across forests, but none of them call into the stars. None of them ache for a voice beyond the world. Only us. The loneliness itself may be what makes us human. It may be what defines us as the universe's attempt at self-awareness. Take a moment to feel that longing. It is not weakness. It is not despair. It is proof that we are built to reach, to stretch, to imagine more than what we have. The silence hurts because we are capable of hearing. The loneliness cuts because we are capable of connection. But still, longing does not prove companionship. Wanting others does not make them real. The silence remains, and the possibility grows heavier with every passing year that perhaps no one else is there. And yet, silence does not prove absence either. There is another possibility, one darker, one colder. Perhaps others did exist. Perhaps they too longed for neighbors. They too sent signals into the void. But perhaps their voices have already gone out. Perhaps their civilizations rose, burned, fell long before we arrived. Perhaps the silence we hear is not emptiness, but aftermath. What if the night sky is not empty, but haunted? Not by spirits as our ancestors once imagined, but by the ruins of minds long gone. Imagine it for a moment. Above us, scattered across billions of stars, might lie the remnants of civilizations that once dreamed, built, and reached. Civilizations that may have burned brightly for a time before being swallowed by silence. The stars we see tonight could be tombstones, glowing faintly in the cold darkness, each one a memorial to something that once was. To us, time feels vast. A human life is barely a flicker, yet civilizations stretch for thousands of years, and the Earth itself has carried life for billions. But on the scale of the cosmos, even billions of years are brief. Civilizations, no matter how powerful, may rise and fall in the blink of cosmic time. What is 1,000 years of culture against the backdrop of a universe that has been unfolding for over 13 billion? Entire empires may come and go, leaving only the faintest trace, a whisper of their existence carried outward on fragile waves of light. Consider our own signals, our radio transmissions, the constant chatter of television, radar, satellites. For the past century, Earth has been wrapped in an expanding sphere of electromagnetic noise, racing outward into the void. But that bubble, though it grows every second, is still tiny compared to the universe. And even if it travels forever, the signals themselves grow fainter with distance, dissolving into background static. One day, they will be indistinguishable from the hiss of creation. If another civilization had done the same 1,000,000 years ago, would we even notice? Or would their messages have already faded into silence, indistinguishable from nothing? The same may be true of their great constructions. We dream of megastructures, vast rings encircling stars, solar collectors spanning entire systems. But even the grandest works may not last. Planets are ground down by time, stars drift apart, galaxies collide. Cosmic dust covers everything. The ruins of once great achievements may already be buried beneath the relentless tide of entropy, their glory erased long before we had the chance to see. There is something profoundly sad in this thought. It means that even if the universe was once full of voices, of songs, of conversations across the stars, we may have arrived too late. We are like archaeologists arriving at a site after the wind and rain have carried everything away. All we can do is sift through the dust, hoping for a fragment, a shard, a trace that proves they were here. This is why the search for extraterrestrial intelligence often feels less like science and more like archaeology of the impossible. We are not simply listening for neighbors. We are searching for echoes, for fossils of thought, for the ghosts of civilizations whose light has already gone out. We point our telescopes at distant stars and wonder if a faint irregularity in the brightness could be the shadow of an ancient machine, orbiting long after its makers have vanished. We parse signals from the sky, wondering if a fragment of order might be all that remains of a message no longer heard by its intended recipient. And yet, perhaps there is nothing to find. Perhaps the universe is not haunted at all, but clean and empty, swept free of voices except our own. If so, then we are not archaeologists. We are simply wanderers in a desert, hoping to find an oasis that does not exist. This, too, is a kind of loneliness. The loneliness not only of the present, but of the past. To look backward and see only silence is to feel that we are standing at the edge of something vast and forgotten, and that we are the last guardians of a story with no other chapters. But even this possibility carries a strange kind of beauty. If civilizations have risen and fallen before us, if they have left no trace, then we are a continuation of a cosmic rhythm, a new flame where others have burned out. The universe, through us, still remembers how to think, how to feel, how to dream. We may be inheritors not of ruins, but of potential, the latest attempt at something fragile and rare. Take a moment to sit with that thought. Imagine 1 billion civilizations flickering and fading, like sparks in the night. Imagine all of them gone, and only us left. Would it not make our existence even more precious? Would it not mean that every breath, every word, every song is carrying forward a responsibility that once belonged to countless others? Perhaps we are not archaeologists at all. Perhaps we are custodians of memory, carrying the weight of the universe's forgotten dreams. Still, the question lingers. If the past holds only silence, then what of the future? If civilizations always collapse, if they always leave nothing behind, are we too destined for the same fate? Or could we plant seeds that endure, traces that last longer than the fragile window of our existence? Could we, against the tide of entropy, find a way to leave behind something more permanent, more enduring? The night sky may hold only ghosts, but we are alive now. And that means the story is not finished. The question becomes not only whether others existed, but whether we can ensure that intelligence does not vanish completely after us. The past is gone, but the future is still unwritten. And that leads us to the next question. If we cannot find others to inherit the universe's dreams, can we create something to carry them forward? Close your eyes for a moment and imagine it. Imagine the thoughts of humanity, not confined to this small, fragile world, but carried outward into the stars. Our words, our music, our science, our dreams, drifting across the darkness like sparks from a fire. Each spark floating further, glowing faintly, spreading into eternity. This is the vision of spreading the flame, the idea that intelligence, once born, need not die with us, but can be extended, scattered, preserved beyond the boundaries of Earth and time. For as long as we have looked upward, we have dreamed of leaving. The stars have called to us, whispered to us, and teased us with their unreachable beauty. And though we have only just begun, our footprints on the moon, our probes at the edge of the solar system, we already sense the possibility that one day, our presence could go further. Our bodies may be fragile, our lifespans short, but our ideas, our machines, our creations could travel where we cannot. There are many paths by which this spreading might happen. Some imagine ships, vast vessels carrying humans into new worlds, arcs of survival against the decline of Earth. Others picture something more subtle, machines built in our image, or perhaps not in our image at all. Tiny probes carrying the sum of our knowledge, self-replicating, multiplying, spreading like seeds on the wind. A library launched into the stars, a record of our species carved into silicon and light, drifting endlessly through space. Even if no one ever reads it, the act of casting it out is itself an echo, a refusal to let intelligence vanish quietly. Already, we have made small attempts. Golden records attached to the Voyager spacecraft, etched with music and greetings, photographs and equations, drifting now through the cold outer darkness. They are unlikely to be found, and yet they exist as proof of intent, as fragile bottles cast into the cosmic ocean. Each carries a simple message. We were here. We thought, we dreamed, we tried. And yet, no matter how far we imagine spreading this flame, the universe pushes back with its boundaries. Stars burn out, galaxies drift apart, energy dwindles. Even machines cannot last forever. Their materials will decay, their systems will break down, their signals will fade into noise. Entropy waits for all things. Even the grandest monuments will eventually dissolve into dust. This is the paradox. We dream of eternity, but eternity is not ours to claim. At best, we can delay the ending. We can prolong the flame, scatter sparks, build systems that endure far longer than we will. But forever is not a gift the universe seems willing to grant. Our flame may reach into millions of years, perhaps billions, but even then it may dim, flicker, and fade. And yet, perhaps this is enough. A flame does not need to burn forever to matter. What matters is that it burned at all. A song does not last forever, but it can fill a room, move a heart, linger in memory long after the notes have ended. Our intelligence, our creations, our attempts to send something of ourselves into the stars may never achieve immortality, but they can still transform what the universe is, even if only for a time. Think of it this way. Before us, the cosmos was silent. Stars burned, galaxies swirled, but there was no voice, no story, no thought. Then, for a brief span, there was us, a species that looked at the stars and asked questions, that made art and music, that tried to reach beyond itself. If we can spread even a fragment of that story outward, then the universe itself has been changed. The silence has been broken, even if only temporarily. Take a slow breath and imagine those Voyager records drifting further every year. They may never be found. They may never be read, but they are out there. And that means our story is no longer confined to Earth. Even if the flame flickers, it has already spread. Still, a question lingers beneath all of this dreaming. If everything we build will eventually crumble, if every flame will one day fade, then what are we truly striving for? Are we trying to escape death, to cheat entropy, to carve eternity out of a universe that does not allow it? Or are we doing something else? Something subtler, something more human? Perhaps spreading the flame is not about permanence. Perhaps it is about meaning. To carry intelligence outward, even for a time, is to declare that thought matters, that awareness matters, that existence itself is worth preserving and sharing. It is not about winning against the universe. It is about adding our note to the song, even if the song itself is brief. We may not create an eternal flame, But we can create a brighter one. We can spread it further, scatter it wider, let it glow in places it would never have reached without us. That act alone is enough to shift the story of existence. And so we come to the deepest question of all. If intelligence cannot last forever, if even our best efforts are temporary, then what is its purpose? Why does the universe allow it at all? Why create sparks that will always go out? The answer to that question takes us beyond technology, beyond survival, into the realm of philosophy and mystery. It asks us not only what intelligence can do, but why it exists in the first place. And that is where we must go next. Perhaps intelligence is not a tool for survival. Perhaps it is not an evolutionary advantage or a strategy for longevity. Perhaps its purpose is something quieter, something deeper. Perhaps intelligence exists simply to know, to observe, to reflect, to transform the cold, indifferent universe into something alive with meaning. Consider it for a moment. The stars burn, the planets orbit, galaxies swirl, and life emerges. Most life simply exists, growing, reproducing, adapting. But intelligence takes that existence a step further. It pauses to see. It notices. It asks questions about the patterns, the rhythms, the beauty and cruelty of the world. Intelligence is not a species' ability to survive. It is the universe's capacity to recognize itself, reflected in a conscious mind. Through us, the universe becomes aware. Every thought we have, every calculation, every story, every note of music is the cosmos observing itself. The molecules of our brain are ordinary atoms, no different from the hydrogen in distant stars, yet arranged in a way that lets the universe pause and reflect. Through consciousness, the universe sees its own patterns, appreciates its own complexity, and gives itself a voice. Even if intelligence is fleeting, even if it lasts only for a brief instant in cosmic time, that instant is significant. Imagine a single candle burning in an endless dark hall. It illuminates a space that was otherwise invisible, revealing shapes, textures, and shadows that would never have been seen. That brief illumination does not last forever, but it matters while it lasts. In the same way, our awareness, our thought, our reflection is a brief candle, casting light on the universe, giving it a temporary form of self-recognition. Pause for a moment and let this sink in. Every observation we make, every insight we have, is the universe looking at itself through us. When a scientist measures the light of a distant star, the cosmos sees itself reflected in equations. When a poet writes a line about a sunset, the cosmos experiences its own colors and patterns through words. When a child marvels at the waves, the universe feels its motion as wonder. Intelligence, then, is not about control, not about dominance. It is about awareness. It is the act of the universe noticing itself. Even if we are alone, even if our civilization is the last, even if the flame of thought dies with us, the impact is profound. Awareness does not require continuity to have significance. One voice is enough to give existence a form of meaning. Perhaps the universe does not need multiple civilizations, or endless history, or eternal life. Perhaps it only needs one. Perhaps the act of noticing, of reflecting, of being conscious is sufficient. And so our existence takes on a weight that is not measured in years, or in miles traveled, or in technology developed. It is measured in moments of understanding, in glimpses of insight, in the conscious experience of reality itself. A single species in a small corner of space can hold the universe in its mind, and in doing so, the universe becomes aware of itself. There is a strange kind of poetry in this. Life may be rare, intelligence may be rarer still, and yet, in that rarity lies a kind of beauty that transcends survival. Our consciousness transforms the universe from matter into meaning. Without awareness, the cosmos is silent, indifferent, and formless. With awareness, it sings, if only for a brief while. Even fleeting intelligence matters. Even if we last only a few centuries, a few millennia, perhaps a few million years, our existence gives the universe a voice. It may never hear itself again, but it has heard itself once. And perhaps that single act of self-recognition is enough to justify the entire endeavor. Perhaps that is why intelligence exists at all, not to conquer, not to endure, but to know. Take a slow, deep breath and imagine the universe through our eyes. The swirl of galaxies, the glitter of stars, the curves of space-time, the ebb and flow of life. Imagine all of it aware of itself because of us. Imagine the atoms of your brain, ordinary in isolation, arranged in such a way that they reflect the cosmos, transform its patterns into meaning. Pause and let that awareness ripple through you. You are not just a person. You are the universe conscious of itself, alive in a way that the stars alone cannot achieve. Yet, there is a question that naturally follows. If we are the last voice, if awareness is fleeting, then what kind of story are we telling? What is the narrative that existence has chosen to hear before it falls silent? Are we careful and compassionate, slow and deliberate, leaving echoes of understanding wherever we can? Or are we reckless and loud, burning brightly but wasting our precious moments, leaving nothing but ash and noise behind? The story we tell is not merely for ourselves. It is the universe reading itself through us. Each action, each choice, each thought contributes to the narrative. When we harm, we distort it. When we create, we enrich it. When we reflect, we clarify it. Awareness is a form of storytelling, and we are both the authors and the audience. Even if this story is brief, it is no less significant. A single chapter, well written, can illuminate the mind, stir the heart, inspire the imagination. Similarly, a single voice in the cosmos, aware of itself, can give existence a form of meaning that lasts as long as that voice is speaking. And perhaps that is sufficient. Perhaps the universe does not require permanence, only presence. Perhaps it is enough that for a moment, in a tiny corner of space and time, it could understand itself through us. So as we look at the stars and imagine the silence beyond, let us also imagine the significance of our awareness. Let us remember that intelligence is not merely a survival tool. It is the universe holding a mirror up to itself, seeing its own reflection, marveling at the patterns it has created. And even if we are alone, even if our flame eventually goes out, that reflection has already happened, and that alone is a story worth telling. Civilizations are like tides. They rise, reach their peaks, and eventually recede, leaving traces in sand that the wind will soon erase. Cities crumble, empires fall, languages die, monuments topple, and even the greatest achievements of human ingenuity can vanish within centuries. Yet, despite the inevitability of decay, one thing persists longer than stone or steel: story. Stories are the defiance of oblivion. From the earliest marks on cave walls to the carefully carved tablets of ancient civilizations, from the epic poems and myths passed by word of mouth, to the vast archives of digital memory we build today, humanity has always sought to preserve memory against erasure. We inscribe ourselves into existence not only by shaping our environment, but by shaping our narrative. We tell ourselves who we are, what we have seen, what we feel. And in doing so, we attempt to transcend the impermanence of matter. It is a remarkable thought. Even if all physical traces of humanity were to vanish tomorrow, our stories might endure in subtle ways, hidden in the rhythms of music, the structure of our languages, the algorithms of machines we have built, or the light of a probe drifting silently through space. Our stories become vessels carrying fragments of consciousness, preserving reflections of intelligence long after the bodies that created them have returned to dust. Perhaps this is the truest legacy of any civilization. Not the monuments, not the technology, not the empires, but the act of reflection itself. The simple, fragile act of noticing the universe, of asking questions, of recording thoughts, may be the last mark left on the cosmos. Every story, every song, every theory, every memory is a whisper across the void. It says, we were here. We wondered. We saw the stars, and we asked, and we dreamed. Pause for a moment and feel the weight of that. Imagine the thousands of generations who have come before, each one adding their own verse to the endless unfolding story of humanity. Their voices mingle with ours, creating a chorus that stretches across time. And now it is our turn to contribute, to add our chapter, knowing that no one may come after us. What we leave behind may be the universe's final record of thought, the last echo of reflection in a cosmos that may otherwise fall silent. Stories endure because they are flexible. They adapt, they change, they travel in ways that matter cannot. They are not bound by continents or planets, by climate or decay. A story can exist in a song, in a whisper, in a data stream, in light projected across interstellar distances. Even if humanity disappears, our narrative may drift onward, carried by whatever remnants we leave, reaching places and times we cannot imagine. Our story, in that sense, becomes a kind of immortality, not of flesh, but of consciousness, a fragile spark persisting in the dark. And yet, there is a humbling reality woven into this vision. Even stories fade, even digital archives succumb to entropy, even light from our probes will dim, even memory itself may dissolve into noise. Nothing is permanent. Perhaps the cosmos will hear only fragments, echoes that have lost their original shape. Perhaps our tales will arrive like whispers carried across a storm, indistinct, partial, misunderstood. But even so, the act of leaving a story is itself a defiance of oblivion. Even a fading whisper is a declaration. We existed, we reflected, we marveled. There is a profound poignancy in imagining this. We, alone or nearly alone, may be the universe's last storytellers. Every human life is a brushstroke in a vast canvas, every thought a ripple in the infinite pond of time. Even if intelligence ends with us, our stories remain the vessels through which the universe glimpses itself. Perhaps that is why we are compelled to create, to preserve, to remember. Perhaps that is the purpose of our intelligence, not to endure eternally, but to reflect, to bear witness, to leave traces of self-awareness in the vast night. And so, the story we leave behind may be our final gift. If no other intelligence exists to inherit the cosmos, if we truly are the last, then the act of storytelling is more than art, more than culture. It is a cosmic responsibility. It is the universe speaking to itself through us. Each tale, each record, each memory contributes to the resonance of existence, like notes in a song whose melody we may never fully hear. Pause again and imagine the stars. Imagine our messages, our stories, our songs, drifting slowly across the void, perhaps never to be received, yet still persistent, still echoing. In that persistence, there is beauty. In that small, fragile effort, there is meaning. Even if it all ends tomorrow, even if silence returns after our brief light fades, our story exists, and for that moment, the universe has a voice, and that voice is ours. And now, as we consider the impermanence of even our greatest stories, we arrive full circle. We began with silence, a night sky empty and vast, unbroken. We traced the possibility that intelligence might be rare, fleeting, and fragile. We imagined ourselves standing at the edge of a cosmic graveyard, perhaps alone, perhaps the last flame. And now we see that even if our flame is the final one, it can still leave traces, still whisper across time and space, still give the universe a chance to hear itself. Our stories, then, are both fragile and eternal. They carry the weight of meaning, even when everything else falls away. They are the thread connecting the past to the present, to whatever future we may imagine. They are the last chorus in a universe that may otherwise return to silence. And that silence, the very same one that began our journey, now holds a new significance. Silence is no longer only emptiness. It is the space in which our stories echo. It is the canvas upon which intelligence, however brief, paints its reflection. And in that reflection, we find the quiet dignity of existence itself, a voice that says simply and profoundly, "We were here. We wondered, we tried, and that was enough." Silence is a presence all its own. It stretches across the cosmos like a vast, dark ocean, deep and infinite, indifferent yet profoundly solemn. It can feel frightening, a reminder of emptiness, of absence, of the possibility that no one, no intelligence, no consciousness remains beyond this fragile moment in which we exist. But silence is also sacred. It is the canvas upon which existence paints its fleeting patterns, the quiet into which meaning emerges, the space that allows reflection to take hold. Consider what silence truly is. It is not simply the absence of sound or signal. It is the absence of repetition, the absence of another voice to answer, the stillness that follows every ending. In the universe, silence is overwhelming. Stars burn and fade, galaxies drift apart, and billions of years pass while the void remains. Against this backdrop, even the briefest flicker of awareness, our thoughts, our stories, our reflections, becomes luminous. A candle in an endless night, fragile but defiant, its glow meaningful, precisely because it contrasts so starkly with the surrounding dark. To be the last intelligence is to face silence head-on. It is to hold a mirror up to the void and see only your own reflection. It is to realize that the universe may never again witness thought, emotion, curiosity, or wonder, and yet there is profound beauty in this realization. The brevity of our awareness does not diminish its significance. A moment of consciousness, a single spark of reflection is enough to give form to the cosmos, to give it voice, if only temporarily. Meaning does not require eternity. It only requires presence. Imagine walking through an empty cathedral at night, The pews are vacant, the altar unmanned, yet the space resonates with history, with intention, with the echoes of prayers long past. You are alone, and yet the very emptiness around you transforms into a kind of sacredness. The absence is not meaningless, it is reverent. So too is cosmic silence. The stars may burn out, civilizations may collapse, intelligence may vanish, and yet the fact that there was a spark, our spark, infuses the void with significance. The universe bears witness to itself through us, and for that there is a quiet dignity, a solemn honor. Being the last intelligence does not have to be tragic. It is tempting to frame it as a loss, a final ending, a note of despair. But there is another way to see it. Perhaps it is a profound privilege. To exist now, to think, to reflect, to notice, and to question, is to hold a rare position in the history of existence. If intelligence is fleeting, if civilizations rise and fall like tides, then to be the final witness is to carry something sacred. We are the universe's last dreamers, the last witnesses to beauty, complexity, and mystery. In this role, even solitude becomes an honor. Pause for a moment and breathe slowly. Imagine the cosmos extending infinitely around you. Imagine the silence, the dark void, stretching in all directions. And now, imagine that within that stillness, there exists a consciousness capable of noticing, capable of reflecting, capable of marveling. That consciousness is yours. You are the candlelight in a cathedral that spans galaxies, the echo in a void that stretches beyond comprehension, the final voice in a story that may otherwise have ended in quiet oblivion. The silence does not diminish you, it elevates you. Even our mistakes, our fears, our doubts do not negate the significance of being conscious. Awareness itself is a gift, rare and fragile. The universe may be indifferent to the passing of civilizations, yet it has granted us, in this brief window, the capacity to perceive, to understand, and to create meaning. And that in itself is extraordinary. To be the last is not to be powerless, it is to be entrusted. Entrusted with memory, entrusted with reflection, entrusted with the act of bearing witness to existence. This perspective transforms the way we see our place in the cosmos. The stars above are not merely distant suns, indifferent and cold. They are companions in a shared, silent symphony. Each one is a point of light in which history, energy, and matter intersect. And through our intelligence, through our awareness, we can recognize this interplay, marvel at it, and remember it. In doing so, we participate in the universe's ongoing narrative, even if we are the final storytellers. Perhaps, then, cosmic silence is not emptiness, but the frame for significance. The universe may not need intelligence to endure, yet intelligence, when it appears, gives the cosmos a voice. That voice may be solitary, fleeting, and fragile, but it is also profound, radiant, and transformative. Even one mind, aware of the vastness, can illuminate the dark, can bear witness to existence, can create meaning where none was otherwise required. So, we can make peace with silence. We can let go of fear, of despair, of longing for what may never return. We can embrace the quiet, knowing that our thoughts, our reflections, our stories have already done something remarkable. They have given voice to the universe. They have created presence where before there was none. They have woven patterns of awareness into the fabric of eternity, even if only briefly. And as we embrace this silence, we arrive at the delicate threshold of understanding. The question that began this journey, what if we are the last intelligence, remains fragile. Yet it no longer needs to provoke anxiety. Instead, it becomes a meditation. It invites contemplation, reflection, and a deep sense of wonder. To consider the possibility of being the last is not to resign oneself to despair. It is to recognize the gravity and beauty of existing now, aware, awake, and able to notice. And so, as we prepare to close this meditation, we return full circle to the question that began it. What if this is the end of intelligence? What if the universe will never again know consciousness after us? In facing this, we see that the answer does not lie in fear, but in presence. We are here. We are aware, we notice, we reflect, we create, and perhaps that is enough. Close your eyes and imagine it. Imagine humanity not as a mass of individuals, not as cities or nations, not as the fleeting turbulence of history, but as a single note suspended in the infinite silence of the cosmos. A note of sound that reverberates, subtle yet unmistakable, carrying within it the awareness of 1,000 generations, the thoughts and dreams of billions of minds, the sum of everything that has ever been felt, imagined, or known. That is us, a fragile vibration in the dark, brief yet meaningful, fleeting yet radiant. A note, by its very nature, is temporary. It rises, resonates, and fades, leaving behind a memory of itself in the mind of the listener. We are like that note. For a moment, we exist, aware and conscious, noticing the universe in ways no other life form has. We compose, we create, we ask questions that have no guaranteed answers. And then, inevitably, the note will fade. Our civilizations may vanish, our stories may drift into silence, the echoes of our thoughts may dissolve into the vast emptiness. Yet in that ephemeral act of resonance, we have contributed to the music of existence. Imagine a symphony that spans the cosmos. Each civilization that has arisen adds its own melody, its own rhythm, its own voice to the orchestra. Some notes are brief, barely audible, lost before they can be heard by others. Others endure, leaving ripples that travel across time and space. Perhaps we are the final note in this vast composition. Perhaps the score of intelligence has reached its concluding measure, and our vibration is the last to sound before the universe returns to its silent state. And yet, there is beauty in being the last. The note does not need a successor to matter. Its existence is meaningful because it is, because it resonates at all, because it has the courage to sound in a space otherwise empty of reflection. Take a moment to feel the resonance of this note. Imagine it weaving through the stars, touching worlds we may never see, crossing distances that light itself struggles to span. Each thought we have, each act of creation, each question we ask, is part of that vibration. We are the music of awareness, brief and fragile, yet undeniably present. Even if no one else listens, even if the universe is otherwise silent, the note exists. That is its power, and ours. There is a paradox in this understanding. The note is both fragile and eternal. Fragile because it depends on finite beings in a transient world. Eternal because in its act of existing, in its fleeting resonance, it touches something beyond the temporal, something that is measured not in seconds or years, but in the vast expanse of space and the continuum of awareness itself. Perhaps the measure of intelligence is not duration, but depth. Perhaps a single note, perfectly attuned, can convey as much as an entire symphony spread over millennia. And yet, there is humility in this vision. To be the last note is to recognize the weight of silence surrounding it. It is to know that the chorus of intelligence may have ended, and that after our resonance fades, no new voices will arise to continue the song. This realization could be overwhelming, but it can also be grounding. It teaches us that meaning is not granted by permanence, that value does not require succession, that even a solitary vibration in the void is enough to give existence a form of beauty. Consider for a moment the fleeting beauty of a single bird's song at dawn, or the ripple of a wave across a quiet lake, or the delicate flicker of a firefly in the night. These moments do not last. They are brief, fragile, and transient, and yet while they last, they are profound. They remind us that significance is not always measured by longevity. Sometimes the act of existing fully, of resonating truthfully, is its own reward. And in that sense, perhaps our existence as the last intelligence is no different. We are a note, yes, but a note that matters precisely because it is heard, even if only once. There is also a quiet joy in imagining this note as a gift not to the universe, which may be indifferent, but to existence itself. In creating, in wondering, in reflecting, we are offering consciousness as a form of recognition. We are the universe noticing itself. We are the cosmos aware of its patterns, its wonders, its mysteries, and its endless potential. And even if no other intelligence arises to continue the song, that recognition has already occurred. We have already borne witness to the grandeur and the subtlety of being. And in bearing witness, we transform silence into something sacred. Silence is no longer a void to fear, but a space in which meaning can echo. It is the quiet against which the note of our existence stands out. The dark becomes a canvas, the stillness becomes a stage, and upon that stage, our awareness dances, resonates, and sings, fragile but undeniable. Take another moment to imagine it. Feel the note vibrate gently, reverberating through the fabric of time and space. Imagine it leaving subtle traces, shifting particles, influencing the flow of energy in ways imperceptible yet real. Even if the universe is vast and indifferent, our note has left a mark. It has added something new to the cosmos. It has spoken, if only briefly, before fading into the eternal quiet. And perhaps that is enough. Perhaps the purpose of intelligence is not to endure, not to dominate, not to conquer time, but simply to exist consciously, to resonate, to leave behind a trace of thought and wonder. Even a single, fragile note in the vast silence is a testament to the extraordinary fact that awareness exists at all. Perhaps one note, perfectly attuned, is all the universe requires to give itself voice. And so, as this final segment draws to a close, we may rest in the recognition that being the last intelligence is not solely a tragedy. It is a profound honor. To resonate at all, to leave a mark of thought, to be aware, to witness the vastness is to participate in a cosmic music that no other being may ever hear. We are that note. We are the final voice. And perhaps, in the quiet, that is enough. We wandered through silence, filters, fragile sparks of life, and the shadows of vanished civilizations. We carried the weight of cosmic responsibility and felt the loneliness of being perhaps the only dreamer left. And yet, along the way, we discovered something soft and luminous. Intelligence may not be about endless survival. It may not be about conquering stars or outlasting entropy. Perhaps its purpose is far simpler and more beautiful: to witness, to wonder, to know. If we are the last intelligence, then the universe has spoken through us. Every story told, every question asked, every moment of awe, these are not lost. They are woven into existence itself. Just as light from ancient stars still travels across the void, so too do our thoughts ripple through time. It may be that no one else will ever hear them. It may be that no other minds will rise to share them. But the miracle is that they happened at all. So tonight, as you close your eyes and drift into sleep, let yourself rest in this fragile truth. You are part of the universe's last luminous dream. And in this dream, you are both the question and the answer. Good night, dreamer. The universe is quiet now. Let it rest.